You made decaf this morning because you thought you were being careful. I need to tell you something. The chemical that pulls the caffeine out of your bag, it's the same one they banned from Paint Stripper. Not similar. The same molecule. It's sitting in 5 best-selling brands right now, and one company actually got taken to court over it. Stay with me. Okay, let's slow down for a second, because I want you to actually picture this with me. Most people assume decaf just means coffee minus the caffeine. Nothing else touched it. Clean swap. Honestly, that's a fair thing to believe. Nobody writes processed with a chemical solvent on the front of the bag, so why would you think otherwise? There is a version of decaf that's genuinely that simple. Just water, just pressure, zero solvent. It exists, but it's not the cheap way to do it, and cheap wins on a grocery shelf. The cheap way is called the direct contact method. Here's what actually happens. They steam the beans open. They soak them in a solvent that grabs onto the caffeine molecules and holds on. Then they steam it back out, dry the beans, roast them. That solvent, most of the time, is methylene chloride. The EPA banned that exact compound from consumer paint strippers, banned it, because people were getting sick from breathing it in, and the EPA has linked it to several types of cancer. One of the last places it's still legally allowed anywhere near what you put in your body is your coffee cup. I read that twice before it landed. To be fair, the FDA does cap it. 10 parts per million. That's the legal limit. Nobody's saying your mug is full of it. But a nonprofit called the Clean Label Project didn't just argue about this online. They sent 24 leading decaf brands to an independent lab. 10 out of those 24 came back positive for methylene chloride. 10 out of 24. Flip a coin twice in your head. Those are worse odds than that. And here's what actually makes this personal. Some of these products were labeled pure, right on the front. Not may contain trace solvent. Pure. That gap between the label and the lab result is exactly why Clean Label Project's legal team filed suit in DC Superior Court against 5 of the biggest names in American coffee. Let's go through all 5, because you deserve names, not a vague warning. First up, Café Bustelo. You'd know it from the little yellow can, a staple in a lot of Hispanic households across the country, owned by J.M. Smucker, a company that's been around since 1897, named directly in the suit. Next, Peet's Coffee. Here's the irony. This is the brand that actually trained the founders of Starbucks. Peet's built its entire identity on being the craft alternative, the coffee snob's coffee, also named. Third one's a heavier hitter, Maxwell House, owned by Kraft Heinz, one of the largest food companies on the planet, a brand that's been in American kitchens for over 100 years with the slogan, "Good to the last drop," named in the same suit. Fourth, Keurig Green Mountain. If you've got a Keurig sitting on your counter right now, their own decaf pods have probably gone through your kitchen at some point without you thinking twice. Named. And the fifth one is the one that actually got me. Amazon Fresh. Not a supplier Amazon uses, their own house brand, their own name printed on the bag. Also named in the suit. 5 brands, 1 legal filing, all documented. And it doesn't even stop there. Separate reporting since then found the same solvent in Kirkland Signature's Decaf, that's Costco's house brand, and in Kroger's Decaf line too. This isn't 5 isolated slip-ups. It's how a huge slice of the decaf aisle actually gets made. It's just never printed anywhere you'd look. Here's the part that made me sit back in my chair. Starbucks and Dunkin' both use this exact same direct contact method for their regular decaf lines, confirmed in their own public statements. So if you specifically reached for decaf because you thought it was the safer of the 2 cups on the counter, that assumption might not hold up the way you thought. If you've ever grabbed decaf because you were pregnant, managing your heart, or just cutting back, drop a comment with which of these 5 you didn't see coming. Starbucks wasn't on my radar either, until I actually read the reporting. But don't relax yet if you drink regular, because this is where it actually gets bigger than decaf. This is the part that kept me up longer than I planned. There is currently no federal contaminant limit for coffee in the United States. None. Not for lead, cadmium, arsenic, or mercury. It sits completely outside that kind of regulation, federally and in every single state. Compare that to baby food, where a new law now forces companies to disclose those exact numbers. Coffee gets none of that. So Clean Label Project ran a second, much bigger study. 57 products, 45 of the top-selling brands in the country, over 7,000 individual lab tests. And here's the number that actually made me put my phone down. Every single brand tested came back with a detectable level of heavy metals. Every one. Acrylamide, a byproduct of high-heat roasting linked to cancer risk, showed up in 100% of samples. And a glyphosate breakdown compound called AMPA turned up in 72% of every sample, including every organic coffee in the batch. Put that number in real terms. If you lined up 100 bags of coffee on a shelf, every single one would test positive for something on that list. Not most. All of them. Organic is the word that's supposed to mean none of this is here. It showed up anyway. So you could grab the most expensive bag on the shelf, the one with organic and clean, in green letters across the front, and it can still come back positive for the exact thing you were trying to dodge. That's not me trying to scare you into anything. That's just what 7,000 lab tests found. If you want more of this, the actual lawsuit, the actual lab report, not just a headline, subscribing means you won't miss the next one, because there's always another one. Now let's get to what you actually do with all this tonight, because information without a next step just leaves you anxious. That same 7,000 test study didn't only turn up problems, it also flagged specific products that came back completely clean across every contaminant tested. So here's an actual tier list, 3 real options, starting tonight. Best pick, 8 o'clock original roast. One of only 16 products in that entire study to test clean on every major contaminant. Second, Great Value French Roast, the Walmart house brand, also clean, which tells you this genuinely isn't about spending more money to be safe. Third, Newman's Own Special Blend, also clean. 3 real bags, sitting on real shelves, not some boutique brand you've never heard of. If you specifically need decaf, look for Swiss water process or CO2 process printed on the bag. 0 solvent, full stop. It'll cost $1 or $2 more. Whether that's worth it depends on how much decaf you actually drink and how you feel about that 10 out of 24 number. Stuck with what's already in your cabinet tonight? Go light or dark roast over medium. The same study found medium roasts consistently test higher for acrylamide. And skip the can when you have a choice. Canned coffee tested higher for both acrylamide and a plasticizer called Deep than bagged or pod versions. This isn't about panicking and emptying your pantry tonight. It's about knowing which one small swap actually changes something real. That number from the start of this video, 10 out of 24, tested and confirmed by an accredited lab, was never a scare tactic. It's a lab result with your name basically on it, because you're the one drinking it tomorrow morning, not a researcher in a lab coat. So here's what you're actually walking away with. The coffee industry has had this exact labeling gap for years, and almost nobody outside a courtroom ever heard about it. What changes tomorrow is simple. Check if your decaf bag says Swiss water or CO2 processed. If it doesn't say either, assume it's the other method, because it almost certainly is. The bigger pattern goes past just coffee. Natural, pure, organic. Those are marketing words, not lab results. The only way to actually know what's in your cup is somebody running the test. And right now, almost nobody's required to. If any of this touches a specific health decision for you, your doctor has more context on your situation than I do. You're probably going to think about this tomorrow morning, standing in your kitchen, staring at your own bag. Honestly, that's kind of the whole point.